Currently, Nancy serves on our board of directors for the Parkinson Association and not only participates in many of our communities and events, but she also regularly attends PAR exercise classes, both in Littleton and Highlands Ranch, and has really helped those living to continue thriving and help those classes thrive. We're excited to have her here for this presentation on living alone with Parkinson's.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I think we're going to have a fun next 40 minutes. My goal is to provide you with some information that just makes it a little easier and maybe safer for you living alone. Whether you're living alone currently or not, I think this will be helpful. I'm going to launch a poll. I just launched one. Are you living alone with Parkinson's? If you have an opportunity to respond to the poll, go ahead and do that. And I've got two other polls teed up. Second thing I wanted to say is I do welcome Q&A during the presentation. So if anybody has a question, just go to the Q&A. I'll keep that window open, and then I can answer your questions as we go along. Next slide, Michael. Let's go to the agenda. Sorry, we'll go to the bio. So to give you guys a little bit of background, I've had Parkinson's for 7.5 years. It's considered young onset. I am on the board of PAR. My dad had Parkinson's. He also had young onset. He was diagnosed when he was 40 and lived 41 years. My mom retired a little earlier than she otherwise would have and became my dad's caregiver. But it's impressive that he was able to live that long in an era where, for example, we were told exercise was bad for people with Parkinson's. I have been involved in the Parkinson's community for many, many years back around my father and my mother's lives, but locally with Davis Finney and Colorado Neurological Institute. My daughter was a member with my mom and dad of the Tremble Clefs. It's a singing group for people with Parkinson's that's nationwide, and that was excellent for my dad. I am retired from my career. I retired because of Parkinson's, largely due to executive functioning changes and changes in cognition and fatigue. And my doctor's saying stress is the #1 thing I had to eliminate. So the career had to go. Michael said I participate in PAR Fitness. I can't tell you how much this is a big part of my life and my every week. I'm currently participating in 4 in-person PAR Fitness classes a week. I am a single mom of 2 girls, 15 and 17. Let's move on to the agenda. We're going to talk about how to build and document your support system. We'll talk a little bit about planning ahead with regard to if you get sick, whether it's a sickness that you get to stay at home or have to go to the hospital. Apathy is something that I think all of us struggle with. So we're going to talk about really getting after it and fighting apathy. And this will be the fun part. We're going to talk about some apps that are going to make life easier and safer. 4 apps that I'm going to be presenting to you today. And then just one slide on some legal documents and free templates to help with kind of the organization of some of the more serious side of life topics. Next slide, Michael. So again, I'm going to keep my Q&A window open. If anyone has questions, please don't feel the need to wait till the end and ask them as we go along. Dr. DeLeon's presentation was amazing. I hope you all got to watch it. She touched on so many important things. One of the things she touched on was, as she said, to kind of document things like your doctor's phone numbers and maybe a contact person's phone number. We're going to get a little more focused on that here and call it our support system. Michael, move forward one slide just for a moment. I want to give a visual and then we're going to go back to this slide. So ultimately, we're gonna, each of you maybe after this can fill out a chart, this chart or a similar chart, so you have a good depiction of your whole support system. We're gonna include your movement disorder specialist. Michael, go back to the previous slide, please. Previous slide, sorry. There you go. So our support system, and I'm gonna emphasize something. I was presenting one time at a Parkinson's 101 class that PAR offered, and I asked the group who here lives alone, and there were quite a few, a subset, I mean maybe 20% of the people, but still we do have separate issues that we need to consider. One individual came up to me after the class and said, I don't have anybody. I don't have friends and local family. And so I want to be sensitive to not everybody's got this great social network. And I want to say that PAR is here for you. For those of you that do have neighbors, friends, and family to include in your support system network, that's great. For those of you that don't, a simple phone call to the PAR office, PAR can actually assign a peer-to-peer advocate or peer-to-peer buddy for you. I've been involved in that in a few different situations. So let's talk about what support really looks like. Exercise buddies. Now, for those of you that are comfortable going to fitness classes, we do have several in person. Even with COVID, we're maintaining distance and wearing masks, and there's a significant hygiene protocol at the gyms where we're hosting the classes. But for many of you that still feel it's safest to stay at home, PAR is offering many virtual exercise classes. And even online, there's lots of other virtual exercise classes. But these people become my friends. My historical pre-Parkinson's friends, I would say, are significantly less a part of my life now. And I've kind of moved over to other friendships. And I found great comfort in developing friendships with my peers, my exercise buddies. PAR has support groups all over the state. Again, you can participate in person or remotely. Something that was real helpful to my mom when she was my dad's caregiver was online support groups. And this started before Facebook came about, but now I'll describe it as Facebook Parkinson support groups. Many, many, many to choose from, whether it's young onset to thinking positive to Parkinson's Diva. I have lots of different support groups, and I'm involved in lots of them just as a reader and maybe an occasional commentator in the support groups. But I know my mom really felt isolated at times in the house with my dad if he was having a bad time, and these support groups, these other caregivers, she could really relate to them. And it was just very helpful to our family for her to have that as an outlet. So think back to that slide that Michael showed. When we fill it out, Dr. DeLeon talked about lots of different types of doctors that you'll need to have as part of your support. A movement disorder neurologist for sure. There's a large percentage of people that just use their primary care or general neurologist for Parkinson's disease, but these movement disorder specialists really do have a focus on the latest and greatest medications and therapies for Parkinson's disease. A neuropsychologist, in surveying my peers, I would say less than half of them have probably seen a neuropsychologist. I have found it very, very helpful. Dr. Schneiders is presenting today. He is my doctor that I see for my neuropsych testing. It's about a 4-hour test. And with that, you get a baseline for where you are with your cognition. And it's so specific that it can define the type of dysfunction, if you will, or impairment that you currently have. And then he can track progression of that as time goes. When they did mine, they were able to find parts of the brain maintain your intelligence, yet parts of your brain are really suddenly below average, and it has to do with the parts of the brain that are impacted with Parkinson's disease. Primary care specialists or primary care doctor is very important. I have all of my specialists feed information to my primary care, so she can have a holistic view of me at any time. And then kind of as needed, physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, as a few others. Dr. Schneiders is going to talk today about anxiety and depression. And surveying my peers, I don't know anybody that honestly doesn't struggle with anxiety or depression or has not had to go on to medication. It's with most of our dopamine being depleted, it's just a reality. And online therapy has become very, very popular. So there's days we feel up, there's days we feel down. I just encourage people to consider that, especially if you're in a situation where you're living alone or feel you need some extra support. The other part of your support system is the more serious, I guess, or part of life, meaning estate planning. You might need an attorney, you might need a financial advisor or a trusted person for financial oversight. I was encouraged early on to get my estate plan together as a single mother, and make sure I had all those documents. And we're going to talk about that just a little bit at the end of the presentation. So again, I emphasize the availability of peer-to-peer support with a simple phone call into the PAR office, and even a social worker. Carrie Friedman, I saw that she's online enjoying the conference today. She's been a social worker with us for many years. She'll come to your house, she'll meet with you, and especially if you're newly diagnosed or if you're entering a new phase of your disease, she can really be a great source for you. Next slide, please. Michael, next slide, please. So the one thing I want to point out here is when you fill out that chart, that support chart, make sure you have it posted somewhere that if you got sick at home, that somebody would know where to find it. Or if you do have a friend or neighbor or family member, maybe give that to them in advance so that when you do get sick or there is a need, they will have this chart filled out with all of your providers' information, phone numbers, and such. Let's talk a little bit about planning ahead for when you get sick. We all get sick. Maria de Leon said, it was in her slide that said, have a backup plan. And that's what we're going to dive into a little bit more. Michael, next slide, please. So a couple of things. Planning ahead for when you get sick. I got sick in April. I was in bed for 18 days. Most likely COVID. They weren't testing people unless you were an inpatient, but my atypical pneumonia, that was double pneumonia, I guess looked like COVID. So the docs think that's what it was. But fortunately, my sister was able to step in. One of my neighbors stepped in. They organized bringing meals to our front door for 2 weeks. I was very fortunate to have that. One other step that came to light for me after that experience is I needed to have a home health care agency teed up and ready for the next time I get sick. With this COVID or whatever it was, illness, I got within a half a day, I went from feeling fine to I can't even think straight. I can't even get out of bed. It was horrible. So just having a home health care agency, even if it's 4 hours once a week or 4 hours every other day for somebody to come in and help you, whether it's meal prep, organizing your medications, picking up your house a little bit. I just encourage you, call the PAR office if you don't already have a home healthcare agency in mind, PARC can give you an idea based on where you live who might be a good contact for you. And then the other thing is, do make sure you have somebody as a point of contact, whether it's a neighbor, a family member, a friend, or even your peer-to-peer support person through PAR. Somebody needs to be willing to be your advocate, take the bull by the horns, maybe set up doctor's appointments for you, make sure you've got enough medication while you're down sick. It really opened my eyes getting that sick that fast for that long. Next comment would be preparing for both planned and unplanned trips to the hospital. Over on the right, you see a couple of medical ID bands. I'm going to take mine off and show you guys what I have. It's just a little bracelet, and when you flip it over, you see the little medical ID logo. And on the inside is the engraving with all of my pertinent information, having Parkinson's, being on a blood thinner, having a pacemaker, stuff that a first responder would absolutely need to know right away as they begin to treat me for whatever the situation is. I included a URL. Lauren's Hope is where I've gotten my medical ID jewelry, because it's not so, I don't know, it doesn't jump out as, oh my gosh, I've got a medical condition. It's really subtle, and it can be nice if that's important to you. The next thing is a very cool free thing that you can get by clicking this URL. Of course, we partner with other Parkinson's foundations across the country. And the Parkinson's Foundation will send you a free bag. It's called a kind of a hospital kit. And it has information in there for the nurses that tell them how important it is for you to get your medication on time. Time and time again, when I've been in the hospital, it's been a struggle to get my Parkinson's medicine on time. And we all know if you miss that window, then it's harder to catch up. You stay on top of your medications, you just do much better. In this bag will be your identification, your spare bottles of medications, packed and ready to go. So again, whether it's planned or unplanned, grab the bag and head to the hospital. A good idea is that after you empty one of your medicine bottles, put that new bottle with a few pills in this bag so that it's ready to go. My mom taught me a best practice with my dad. She always said, have 2 sets of medication, 2 separate places. When you travel, if you put something in your check bag, always make sure you have separate medicine in your carry-on, but always have 2 sets. It would have been horrible for my dad to be out and about in his late disease stage without his medication. So I'm going to encourage you guys again, any questions, hit the Q&A. Michael, next slide. So if we were in person, I would ask who in here struggles with apathy? And I think most everybody would raise their hands. And apathy can look like different things. It could be just a lack of interest. It could be lack of enthusiasm, lack of caring, not really being concerned about stuff, indifference. Apathy is very, very real with Parkinson's, and it's something I've spoken with a lot, often with a lot of my peers. I underlined the word fight because it is something we need to be proactive with and kind of fight it, keep it away. That's a picture at one of our boxing classes, by the way. Boxing has been a huge part of my life, and it's something that has lots of scientific data about the improvements that it provides for us, and is just growing across the country. And PAR continues to support that by expanding into new classes and gyms. We just added a new one in Littleton a month ago. We've already added a second class per week for boxing because we're filling up the classes already. So how do we fight apathy? This is what I like to suggest. The night before, or before you go to sleep at night, look at your schedule the next day and make sure it's not too tight. Make sure it's not overbooked. Make sure there's something on your schedule. It could be something as simple as going outside to walk for 15 minutes. It could be something as simple as going out to King Soopers to pick up some groceries. But put something on your calendar that you're going to commit to doing. That when you feel apathetic, I really don't feel like it. Painting has become one of my hobbies. I love it. It makes my Parkinson's symptoms go away when I'm painting. It makes me feel better after I'm painting. But I struggle with apathy and going over and painting. It's crazy, but that's a very real challenge that I deal with day in, day out. Maintain your current interests or develop new interests. Audiobooks is something that I've added to my list of interests. Just 10 minutes here, 30 minutes there, having a variety of audiobooks to listen to, as just another simple little thing to engage my mind. Dr. De Leon emphasized, don't watch the news all day long. It can be very dark. It's important, I think, to stay on top of the news, but having other interests is important as well. Strive versus try. In the picture, you see a little blackboard in the boxing photo. Early in 2020, in January, the owner of the gym had us write our one word for 2020. I wrote the word strive. And there are things in my life that I'm striving to do or striving to maintain or striving to improve versus try. Try almost sounds like you're opening yourself up to not doing it or failure. And I like to think of striving, even if they're the smallest little things, striving to accomplish these things. PAR support groups, dozens and dozens of them across the state, dozens and dozens of exercise classes. At our peak, we were offering, I think it was 68 exercise classes per week, which is just incredible. Parkinson's Rockies is, as far as I know, the top PAR organization across the country, top Parkinson's organization across the country. Some other small ideas for things you can put on your calendar the night before. If it's cold outside, if it's slippery, if there's any snow or ice, we want to avoid that. We're going to talk about fall soon. Walk the mall. Go somewhere and walk inside. Most importantly, and then Dr. De Leon also said this, she said it was very important to every day set a goal for yourself. Make it small enough so you know you're going to accomplish your goal. Could be as simple as putting on some makeup. Shaving. I have great memories of one of my daughters when she was probably 4, shaving my dad with his electric shaver. I have a picture and a video of it that I cherish. Even those small things release good chemicals in our brain. And that's what Parkinson's is all about, is the brain chemicals. So anything we can do to get those good chemicals to release, whether it's exercise or connecting with a person over the phone or seeing a person in person, or achieving a small goal, will release those chemicals. One other thing I wanted to mention about exercise. During the COVID lockdown, I actually bought one of these boxing bags for my house. It's $299. It sits in the corner of my living room by the entrance. I didn't have anywhere else to put it. It's not aesthetically pleasing in my living room, but let me tell you, it really, really helped me keep the gains that I'd had from boxing after I recovered from being sick. Balance being probably the biggest thing that it helps me with. You can buy a yoga mat, just 2 light weights, a boxing bag. If you don't want to go to a gym, there's lots of things you can do. A lot of trainers are even using soup cans on their virtual classes. Michael, let's go to the next slide. And while you're doing that, I want to mention one more thing that Dr. De Leon mentioned that really resonated with me. She said the word persistence and then perseverance. Perseverance was the theme that I used when I spoke at my dad's eulogy. It was titled Perseverance, because that's what my dad modeled for me. He had Parkinson's for a long time, and it was bad for a while at the end. And we have to commit to ourselves perseverance to make the best out of what we're dealing with. Now, this is the fun part. The next 4 slides we're going to talk about are technology related and how to make life easier or make life safer. This is an Apple Watch. This is my Apple Watch. I bought this thing once fall detection became a feature. It's very cool, and I've seen it work firsthand. This is what happens. If you take a fall, you're going to get a message on your Apple Watch, the center picture. It says, "It looks like you've taken a hard fall." And you can respond, "I did not fall. I fell, but I'm okay." Or you can click on emergency SOS. In that case, 911 will be dispatched. If you take a fall and you're out, you don't respond, 911 is going to be dispatched. This could be a lifesaver. This could be a lifesaver. Now, this is a little bit technical, and I don't want to claim to be a technical expert on these apps, but I want to introduce you to these apps. And if you want me to explain further, we can follow up after my presentation and deep dive into some things. Now, I bought the cheapest watch possible, $399. It does not have the cellular feature on it. The cellular feature adds cost to the watch, and then you need to pay your cellular provider $10, $20 a month for an additional line, something like that. So because I don't have cellular on my watch, when I go take my dogs for a walk, I bring my iPhone. And as long as my iPhone is in my pocket, if I take a fall, my Apple Watch is going to use the cellular feature on my phone to call 911 if I don't respond or if I need help. So real important. If you don't have an iPhone, if you say you have another type of phone or just you don't have an iPhone, you can get the watch with the cellular feature and pay your wireless carrier to have all of these features all within your watch itself. I just got a note that my dog is being heard, so I apologize for that. And she's been wanting me to pick her up, so I'm just going to hold her. So this is Easter. Now I'm going to play something fun for you guys on my phone. I hope you can hear it well. And it has to do with falling. It will just take 10 minutes. I get knocked down, but I get up again. They're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. They're never gonna keep me down. Chumbawamba. I get knocked down. I get knocked down, but we get knocked down, but we get up again. Or I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. This song that I've always liked has new meaning for me now. I hope you guys got a chuckle out of that. Let's move on to the next slide, Michael. And by the way, I got a note from Krishnan, who is a fellow exercise participant, that said meditation really helps him fight off apathy. And Krishnan, thank you for contributing that point. I'm going to pick it up just a little bit because I know we've only got 10 minutes before we need to wrap up. The next app is simply amazing. I wanted to tell you guys a source for some of these apps was my AARP magazine. That's what got me started on finding some technology that would be applicable to us. It's called the MediSafe Medication Reminder app. It's available on both Apple and the Google Store. It gives you a prompt that sounds like a shaking pill bottle when it's time for you to take your medications. You can put in as many medications as you like, and you can adjust the times as you like. And at the end of the day, you check the time you took it. At the end of the day, you can get a view of, I took my medicine regularly or not. This is also able to be shared with a friend or a caregiver. So as Parkinson's progresses, it can become difficult for people to stay on top of taking all of their medications, the right medicines at the right times. So this is a great way, if you do live alone, to stay connected with that person that you cherish, for them to know that that's great, Nancy's taken all of her medicine on time today. So as I progress, I imagine it'll probably be my sister that gets an alert. Nancy missed her Stalevo. And she'll probably text me, Nancy, why didn't you take your Stalevo? The other thing that's cool about this is they actually also offer pharmacy services. There's a lot of online pharmacy services becoming available, again, to make things easier for us. So that is an option. If you put all of your medications into the app, another feature that could benefit you is contraindications, or please don't take your multivitamin with your antibiotic. That's an example, a live example of where there might be a conflict. Michael, next slide. Thank you, Michael. So this probably looks familiar to you guys. This is an app called ICE, Medical Standard. ICE stands for in case of emergency. What's cool about this is it's on your lock screen. So if you don't have a medical ID bracelet and you prefer to just have this information available on your lock screen, you can have it here. Now, most phones have a place for you to store this information anyway. Excuse me for a moment. I'm going to let the dog outside. Okay, come on up. Sorry about that. This on the news yesterday, I cracked up because somebody was presenting and his grandson got into the actual news interview. So welcome to 2020. So ICE is a nice app if you want to have it on the front of your iPhone in case of emergency. It would be critical for an emergency responder to know that I have a pacemaker, to know that I'm on a blood thinner, for example. Let's move on to the next slide. Michael? Okay, this is my favorite one. It's called Snug Safety App. This gives you a peace of mind, and those that love you a peace of mind that if you need help, or if you have taken a fall, or if you're not well, Snug is going to be checking in on you every day. So super easy to set up. You download the app. Each day, you're going to get a note from Snug. And it's going to give you an inspirational quote. And then you're just going to click the button, the check mark that says you're okay. If you don't do that one day, your emergency contacts are going to be notified. So as my disease progresses, this is going to be a way for probably my sister to know, hey, Nancy checked in today. I've already sent her Snug sent her a text that said, you are Nancy Ivankoe's Snug person, basically, and will be notified if Nancy doesn't respond one day that she's okay. There is a fee-based $9.99 a month option that if there's no response from you or your contacts, 911 will be notified. On an unhappy note, but we're talking reality here, I've known 2 people, not Parkinson's related, but 2 people to pass away and were found 6 days plus later in their homes because no one had checked on them. So consider Snug, pass it around. I just love it. Michael, let's move on. The next app is really a safety app for, I think if you're out at night, most of us probably aren't, but if you ever do go out at night, whether it's a walk through your neighborhood or you had to go out, so a walk through a parking lot to your car, Be Safe is an app that kind of has a virtual person walking with you. You set up a key phrase, such as, I like to paint, maybe. Whenever I say I like to paint, that activates, voice activates SOS for me. Or if you have the ability to click a button on your phone, you can touch SOS. So this is more of a safety app that applies to everyone, whether they live alone or not. You set up, excuse me, I'm gonna shut the door. So sorry for that. So you set up your kind of guardians, and your guardians will get a sound alarm anytime you've activated anything, and video and audio recording starts immediately upon you initiating the SOS. We've got 2 more slides. We're going to end this on time. Let's go to the next slide, Michael. Dr. De Leon touched on having a backup plan, and she kind of had a flow chart with the backup plan. This is a little more detail, and I believe we also have a separate session today that talks about these documents in particular, but I wanted to give you guys kind of a thumbnail sketch of what's primarily very important. Medical POA. So if you're not able to make your medical decisions in the event of an emergency or even a scheduled surgery or something, make sure you have somebody that knows your wishes and that person has decisional capability. A living will is also essential. It provides you the ability to specify your wishes with regard to end-of-life treatments in the event we get to that point. Durable power of attorney, a trustworthy adult to manage your finances, and perhaps other things. I wanted to give you guys a couple of links to some templates. These videos are going to be posted on YouTube for a month. You can click on either of these links and get Colorado-based, or whatever state you need, templates for lots of these different forms. And then there's a separate one for Honor My Wishes. The whole website is about honoring your wishes. This is the other thing that I would keep in a safe place, maybe in the same place where you keep your support system chart that we looked at earlier. Let's move on to the last slide, Michael. So every day starts fresh. I'll give you a personal example. I had a horrible day Thursday, just stuff going on, horrible day. And during the day Thursday, I was telling myself, I can't wait for this day to be over. Never a good thing, but I really couldn't wait for that day to be over. And when Friday morning came, I referred to this and told myself it's a new day, fresh outlook, and I can do this. Sometimes fake it till you make it. Some days are better than others. But I encourage you all in closing, as a takeaway, stay focused on fighting that apathy. Make sure that each day you have an accomplishment, no matter how small or no matter how big, and take it day by day. And with that, I open up to questions where we need to wrap.